If you're an in-home salesperson or a technician, what are seven closing techniques that may lead to a no, and why does it matter? This is a fantastic question. I'm Scott Bell, coming to you live from Sacramento, California. Perfect day to talk about sales and business. Fantastic day to talk about you for HVAC technician self secrets. All right, so the truth is there's tons of ways for you to close deals. And here's the thing. Sometimes you, sometimes me, we want to take shortcuts. And so most of these seven ways to close are based upon shortcuts for you that typically lead to a no. So I want to start with the first one because this one is all about speed. And I've done this. I've made this mistake. Hi, I'm Scott. I screw up too. All right, you get to the call. You meet with Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones. And for whatever reason, your brain just tells you speed up. So it's like on your end, you do a quick, let's get to the point close. Right? There's no real effort on your part. For whatever reason, you're taking steps out of your presentation. I don't know, tired, hungry, over it for the day. So you mail it in. You're like, hey, listen, Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Jones, why don't we do this? And then you shortcut and truncate your sales process. You don't do a discovery. You don't really do a presentation. And punchline to the joke, deal doesn't close, right? The quick close hardly ever works unless it's mutually beneficial to both people. And then even then it has its problems. Number two, the massive discount up front, okay? So you meet with Mr. Smith, Mr. Jones, and you're at the table. And your product is 20 grand and you're allowed to give up to a 20% discount. And in your brain, you're like, I just want to be done with this. And so you discount 20%, you roll 16,000 and they're like, hey, we got to think about it. We're still getting other bids. You didn't do your job. You didn't have the conversation. And here's the thing. It's not very interesting for the homeowner. There's no dopamine rush. They didn't have to put up any fight, right? So part of the story that a potential client tells another person is like, oh, I worked the sales guy. I worked the sales chick. I made them work for their sale. There is an element of dopamine that people like to have from closing a deal and fighting with you. They treat it like it's a fishing event. Like, oh, I went out and I had to, fight off the waves and, all these stories. And then I reeled in this big fish. That's how people talk about deals when you're done. Sometimes, right? There's no dopamine rush if you do it. If you just walk in and you're like, hey, 16 grand, it's normally 20. We'll do it for 16. Why? Well, because I can, because I'm able to discount, because that's what it is. Hey, I've made this mistake too, right? Early on in sales, I did this a lot. Should have never done it. Had nobody to pull me aside and go, hey, Scott, that's a knucklehead move. You probably shouldn't do it. Now, here's the thing. You want to be better at sales. You want to close more deals. You should absolutely join my email publication. Go right here, hvactechsecrets.com. Drop that address into a browser. I'll give you the goods. They're not in the Facebook group, not the YouTube channel. It's an email publication. You get emails from me. Number 3, the guilt trip close. Ooh, this one happens when you're in trouble and you know it. You're in trouble at the office and you're not closing deals. So you kind of combine the quick close to the massive discount close and then you got nowhere to go. And then you're like, hey, if I don't get this deal, I'm going to be in trouble. So you beg for the deal. That's a bad position to be in. But if you pay attention to number 1 and number 2, you typically don't end up in number 3. If you're in the guilt trip close, something happened wrong, there's a distraction you got in life, you're going to have to take care of it. It's a common issue. Number 4, the family close. The family close, right? I don't have a family. I don't have a wife. I don't got kids. You try to use this close on me, I'll be like, doesn't matter, right? And the family close is something along the lines of this. It's everything your family needs. Okay. Right? The better way to do it is to point out the person in the family if that's very specific, if you've had that conversation. And, side note, if you're going to use this close, that person better have talked about their family and the issue that they've had within the family. Otherwise, it just feels like a guilt trip. Number 5, the now or never close. Okay? The now or never close can happen. It can, and you can do a now or never close or take it or leave it price, whatever way you want to say it. It's going to happen after you've done discount 1, discount 2, discount 3, and you put some work to it. Right? There's effort on your part. Remember, it's all about speed a lot of times. Why people lose deals is because they tried to get to the close too fast. right? So they run through things and they're like, hey, let's just close this deal. Well, if you're going to do a now or never close, 2 specific times that works. Mutually beneficial to you and mutually beneficial to the buyer. There's been plenty of times where I showed up at a house, at a business, and the person's like, hey, listen, sales dude, I got a bid, which to me stands for beat idiot's deal, for 12 grand. If you can't beat it, there's no reason for you to be here. Get out of here, right? So like the now or never close in that situation, if so inclined, has to happen this way. If I did that right now, what happens next? If I do that for you, I'm not saying I could, but if I could, what happens next? Well, I'm still getting other bids. Like, that is impetus for a now or never close. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2, discount, 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 discount. You got nothing left to give. Hey, this is it. I'm at the bottom. I got nothing left to give. You want this price? Take it or leave it, right? But to start with it, not a good idea. Number 6, sign language 6, the puppy dog close. I worked with a person who puppy dog closed or rescission closed their way to a phenomenal month, and none of it was real. It screwed up the entire month sales for an entire company because this person thought it would be cool to rescission close about 15 or 16 contracts. Had massive numbers, and nobody understood why, because this person was not an A-level salesperson. They were like a C or D-level salesperson, and they were acting as if they were an A-level salesperson all the way up here, closing like deal after deal after deal. The install department calls and says, hey, our crews are going to be out tomorrow. Homeowner's like, we never did that deal. We just tried to lock in the price. That job already went in last week with another company, right? So salesperson pushed out the deal a couple of weeks to hold a price, and it was a commission gets position company. And so this guy blew a bunch of leads that other salespeople that were A-level players would have closed, right? Last on this list, number 7, sign language number 7, is going to be I'll discount so you don't have to have the other guy come out. Now, there are times and places where this works, okay? I'm just saying, if you are doing this, almost all 7 of these are all about, you got to have the time with the buyer to make them work. And a lot of times, most salespeople don't because they've rushed through the call, which is why they trigger, I got to speed up and get to the quick close to give the massive discount, to give the guilt trip, to use all these crazy closing lines or the now or never close or the rescission close. You can absolutely close a deal, but you have to do it the right way. I do have some of that in my proprietary training. So here's the thing. Pay attention to how long your TOC, your time on call for your sales calls, because that's really going to determine how many of these are you going to use. Can you use them in closed deals? Yes, you freaking can. Can you do it wrong? Oh boy, can you. Yes, you can do it completely wrong. You got 1 of 3 things to do from here. Just 1 of 3, find the subscribe button, click on it, and every time I send out a video, you'll get an update. 2, hit follow. 3, share this video with a friend. We'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.